Hey everybody, welcome back again to Ken Tamplin Vocal Academy, where the proof is in the singing. I'm doing this really cool series where I'm doing takedowns, or I'm analyzing isolated vocals, and I'm doing an analysis and a vocal tutorial in hopes to show you guys how these amazing singers, these legends and legendary songs, how they got to the places they did vocally to help you get there vocally as well. Before we get started, if you wouldn't mind, please like and subscribe to my channel. That would be really great. I have a singing course. The course is called How to Sing Better Than Anyone Else, where I walk you through step by step and how to get to these amazing places. You can find it right here at kentamplinvocalacademy.com. I also have a free singing forum over there. So if you guys are interested and want to learn how to sing, kind of kicking the tires a little bit, if you see if it's right for you, or if you're an intermediate singer or an advanced singer, we have all kinds of different levels in the forums. It's totally free. There's over 20,000 people in the forums, like-minded singers like you, all wanting to learn at different ages and stages of singing, with some excellent moderators helping people understand how to do my course and how to get to these great places of singing. So with that said, I'm going to do Ann Wilson. The band is Heart, and the song is called Alone. Now, I've done versions of this with my students. I will put that in the description so you can see how we did, how the Ken Tamplin Vocal Academy method works, and then we're going to actually talk about Ann right now. So by the way, Ann is she's one of the greatest female rock vocalists of all time, so it's a privilege and an honor to be able to do this, okay? Here we go.
I hear the ticking of the clock. I'm lying here, the room's pitch dark.
Now, straight away, we can hear a lot of reverb. Now, most of these isolated vocal tracks, you don't know kind of what condition you're going to get them in. Sometimes you get background vocals on them, sometimes no background vocals, sometimes there's a drum beat, sometimes there's reverb, sometimes there's no reverb. It's good to hear this version right here because you can hear how much reverb they really used. Ron Nevison was a producer, God rest his soul. He produced a lot of stuff, but this album was kind of their comeback album from the early Barracuda days, right? The early 70s or the 70s stuff. So this was their big comeback album. And if you really listen, there's a gob of reverb on it. And by the way, it's just for effect. Ann doesn't need that. But if you notice, the reverb is so loud that it's as loud as her vocal, if you really, maybe even sometimes a little louder. So it's just a ton of reverb on the vocal. So that also helps with a lot of thickness and fatness and her to be able to kind of sing phrases a little shorter, and it trails off and gives a lot of breathing room for not having to over sing. Okay, so listen closely. Here we go. Check it out.
I hear the ticking of the clock. I'm lying here, the room's pitch dark.
Now, for you singers out there, I hear the ticking of the clock. I'm lying here, the room's pitch dark, right? You can kind of see yourself doing this. So the coolest thing ever, like I've said a few times in these videos, is putting some flesh and blood on these singers that are like, they seem unattainable, but they really aren't as unattainable as you might think when you break this down, you take the band away from it, and then you're able to kind of really listen to what it sounds like. Pretty stinking cool for us to be able to go back and dissect these original tracks like this. So anyway, let's continue.
I wonder where you are tonight. No answer on the telephone. And the night goes by so very slow.
Now, if you notice, she's kind of faster on the stabs. You'd think she'd be a little more legato. And the night goes by so very slow, right? My recollection of this, or my remembrance of this, is that it was a lot more legato and portamento and fluid and longer phrases like this. But if you really listen closely, it's the reverb doing that. It's not her. She's going, but the night goes by so very slow. She's kind of more stabby and more staccato on it than she is really legato and portamento. Check it out.
And the night goes by so very slow.
And the night goes by so very slow. She's got more energy than I remember. I thought it'd be a little more laid back than that.
Oh, I hope that it won't end though. Alone.
Cool. Now, an interesting thing about Ann, I want to revisit this last line, is Ann also has a caprino vibrato. She has a very fast goat's wiggle vibrato, especially when she sings high. But when she sings low, she doesn't. It's strange because she's using two different vibratos. Now, everybody has their own natural vibrato, but in the lower register here, I want to point it out. Listen close. The. See how kind of slowed down it is? Listen close. Right? It's not real fast like what she does when she goes up top. Now, the reason for that probably is it's kind of a nervousness in the voice where it's she wiggles the vibrato faster in order to be able to relieve tension in the throat. But it's not necessarily a healthy vibrato, and it's not necessarily a natural vibrato other than the fact that she uses that for her release valve for relaxation. When she goes to hang a note or hold a note, she uses that as she goes up. Let's take a listen. Alone. Hear that? Here we go.
Till now.
Till now. Hear the fast vibrato come in, right? Now, it warms it up a bit to have this much reverb on it. But for you ladies out there, or even guys, if you want to emulate the sound, she's also very nasally on the sound. Till now. Right? I'm over exaggerating it so you can hear it, but it's till now. Right? Listen closely.
Till now. I always got by on my own. I never really cared until I met you. And now it chills me to the bone.
And now it chills me to the bone. Hear the fast vibrato come in? Now, the other interesting thing about this reverb that they used, and this is a technique like with Celine Dion, and there's a lot of things that when you're using this much reverb in a sound, you have to actually either set the delay of the reverb to be shortened. So this one's probably somewhere around 300 milliseconds, 320 milliseconds, 270 to 300, somewhere in there. And the reason I point this out is because when you're using a room hall, you engineers out there, if you want to do this, you can't have the end be that long. Otherwise, it just gets so washy and sloshy through your mix. So notice how the reverb it's big and then it drops off all of a sudden, which leads me to believe that either Ron Nevison gated the reverb or they wound up using two different reverbs. They wound up using a room reverb that was fairly short just to get an ambience of the room, and they took that reverb, not even necessarily the lead vocal, but the reverb itself, and they put that reverb into another reverb so that the fall off would be really quick at the end, and then they were able to gate the second reverb so the reverb would be short, even though it's big, thick, fat, warm hall sound. The end of the delay of the reverb's cut off pretty quickly. Listen close.
And now it chills me to the bone. How do I get you alone?
Those are some high notes, man. So hear it cut off. Hear the reverb cut off really quick. Listen close.
I get you alone. How do I get you alone?
Hear the reverb cut off, but how do I get you alone? And right? Very nasally, very brassy, very pointed in the sound. So it's kind of harsh at times. So for me, as much as I love Ann Wilson, and I have utmost respect for Heart, oh my gosh, they're one of the greatest female rock bands or rock bands with female lead singers of all time. But after a while, that shrillness on the sound kind of grades on you a little bit, kind of like Celine Dion and other people that use that, a lot of nasality. It's a little riveting after a while, and it kind of nervous, makes you feel a little nervous in the sound. So it would have been nice instead of, how do I get you alone? Right. Instead of being, Axl Rose kind of buzzsaw at the top, I would have loved to have had it be a little warmer in the sound, personally.
You don't know how long I have wanted to touch your lips and hold you tight.
Now, for you audio engineers again out there, someone recently asked me, hey, Ken, I noticed on some of your videos that you do for YouTube that there's some sibilance. What is sibilance? It's that kind of stuff that hits the reverb or right? It's this kind of noise, high-end noise. And what's happened is in today's recording process, or when people hear stuff back, they expect it to be so doggone loud with almost zero dynamic range that it's sort of this expected thing from people. Now you can hear here, it sounds like Ron Nevison used a de-esser. So what that is it's a little thing on the vocals that every time there's an over-exaggeration of a T, hitting a reverb, or S, it actually gates it really quickly. So long that I have waited. So it kind of mutes those harshnesses. So when it hits the reverb, it doesn't go or delay. It does that through the reverb. In this case, it doesn't. Listen closely, because it's really carefully crafted so that you don't hear those noises, okay?
You don't know how long I have wanted to touch your lips and hold you tight.
Did you know? To touch your lips and you can't hear that. Touch your lips and holds you tight. So if you're using your reverbs out there, you probably will want to use a de-esser or some kind of gate to gate off some of the harshness of those sibilances.
You don't know how long I have wanted to touch your lips and hold you tight.
Did you hear how gentle it hit the reverb rather than it being really bright and obnoxious?
Oh, you don't know how long I have waited, and I was gonna tell you tonight.
Nice harmonies.
But the secret is still my own.
Secret, right? So she goes, but the secret is real warm and muted, and it doesn't hit the reverb real hard.
But the secret is still my own.
By the way, I love how much passion when she goes, but the secret is still my own, and I won't, handle. I love the way she works the velocity, which is the volume of her voice. She works it back and forth. Now, there's an art to having a good compressor, a couple compressors, so that you can capture the intimacy of a vocal that's really close and up front. And then when she belts and leans into it, it doesn't get so squashed that it sounds like you're singing through a straw or really pencil small. Listen closely, you can hear the dynamic of the volume of the voice working with someone that really knows how to use compression.
But the secret is still my own. And my love for you is still unknown. Alone.
Hear the warm? Alone. Really nice warm sound. Okay, someone did the... I haven't heard this by the way. Here we go. Now, that's pretty... almost borderline out of control. If you really listen to that, it's kind of unstable in the vibrato, in the lick itself, right? Now we go back and we listen to this icon stuff, and just because it's legendary, we accept that. But what's cool about it is it says, even Anne kind of struggles for certain things, or is it necessarily perfect? It's what makes us human. That's why I say this stuff is attainable. So I want you to listen to this lick again. Listen, check it out. It's got a little right. It's a little wiggly. It doesn't sound super pure and super perfect, but that's cool too, right? Nothing wrong with that. But that's what's so cool about having these isolated tracks, because if we heard it in the mix, we'd go, oh wow, that sounds perfect, but it's not. Check it out. It's cool.
Till now, always got by on my own.
Now, the interesting thing is, I don't know, this sounds to me like it was recorded at a different time, because if you really listen closely, she's got a little bit more dirt in her voice. So I kind of wonder if maybe they took a dinner break or this was another day, but you can hear the compression. Remember we talked about the compression on singing low, what that was like. Well, that low register, the way the compressor's set up, has a lot of warmth and fatness in the sound, and this one you can really hear it working hard. Listen closely, let me back it up again. Here we go. Right? Here we go. Check it out.
I always got by on my own.
Hear the Durant? Till now, always got by. Right, you can hear the dirt in her voice. And kind of the only way really to get that is by singing a lot. So unless she sang a lot up until this point, or she did a bunch of other stuff to get that tone, it takes a minute to get that kind of sound of the voice, and you can clearly hear it here in this chorus.
I never really cared until I met you.
Really cool harmony too. By the way, if you notice the harmony, it doesn't go, I never really cared until I met you. The harmony could have been, I never cared until I met, or met you, right? I never really cared until I met you. But it doesn't. Instead, she holds a unison or a single line harmony. I never really cared until I met you. So that it lets the regular melody move. And what happens is, let me explain something about harmonies, okay? You guys may or may not be interested in this, but it's a really interesting thing if you're trying to do harmonies. If you take a melody and you stack a third harmony on top of it, like what would be normal, okay? It detracts so much from the melody as it moves around. I never really cared until I met you, right? If it moves around so much, it takes away from the integrity of the original melody, where you can't even really make it out. Now it's two voices moving around and you don't really hear the melody. If you have a melody that's like a sus, right? A sus melody just holding a single note and letting the melody move around and do all the work, then the melody itself maintains the integrity of the melody and it gets the benefit of feeling that you hear the harmony. Now, an example of this, and I've done this before in other projects that I've shown you guys, is if you're looking to not have your melody to get so absorbed in a bunch of harmonies, what you do is you sing a chord, the chords that are going by that you're playing, or you sing notes that are not competing for that melody. You're going, Ken, what the heck are you talking about? I'm talking to you guys out there that really want to know this stuff. And if you guys that don't know about melody or harmony or how to harmonize, just hang in there for a second. I'm almost done. This will help these other guys that don't. So if you take just the chord structure itself, so you sing the chord and you don't follow the melody goes like this and it weaves through the chords, it weaves through it like this to where it doesn't get absorbed or lost in a bunch of harmonies to make it sound real cheesy and too poppy, and you get to maintain it. You hear this a lot in Def Leppard, in all kinds of bands, especially in a lot of modern music too, where it's just a big chord, anthemic chord that they're singing, and the melody gets to kind of weave through it, and then you can pick out that melody very clearly. And that's exactly what they did here. Listen.
Really cared until I met you.
They stayed on a melody or a harmony up top and didn't move with the melody, so the melody maintained its integrity, okay?
I really cared until I met you. And now it chills me to the bone. How do I get you alone? How do I get you alone?
So if you guys want to learn that leg, it's and all she does is speed it up. Right? Now it's the same note value, but what happens a lot of times when we do these licks, you've got the same lick, but it's the way it's phrased that makes it different. So if you listen, she goes, and the accent on the notes, so on and on. So she's accenting. That's the accent on the first one, and on the first note is the accent on the second. So it makes it sound like a different lick, and in the way it's sped up or slowed down. Right? That's how these licks are done. It's not that they've got so many runs, and there are some crazy runs out there, but it's the way the runs are phrased, the volume and the way they're phrased and are sped up or slowed down that makes all the difference in the world. Check it out.
How do I get you alone?
Okay. She kind of did it almost the same way both times. Chorus coming up.
How do I get you
Now, did you notice too, when I go back to the reverbs, listen to how much reverb are on those vocals and how much they taper off really quickly at the end of the phrase so that they can use a gob of reverb, soak it in reverb, but it doesn't overwhelm the track with reverb because they have a real heavy gate on the end of it, so it gates off quickly and it doesn't suck up a lot of track when you're going to mix. Check it out. By the way, I never noticed that at the end of this, there's a double there. I always thought this was a single vocal line, but listen, you can hear two voices come in. Check it out. By the way, when you have two voices like that, and the vibratos don't match, it kind of destroys the uniqueness or the personality or personalness of the vibrato. So it's, listen to it closely. Check it out. Hear that? That time she was able to match the vibrato together. Listen, check it out. Interesting, huh? I find all this stuff really fascinating. So anyway, thank you gang for joining me and check out my next video.